Ba-da-bum, ba-da-bum, ba-da-ba-da-bum. Yes, I'm basically John Barry, the composer of most of Bond. Wow. So if you can't tell by the title of this video, I'm here today to do the absolutely horrible task of ranking all 24 of the currently released Bond films. That's the Eon films. I'm not doing Never Say Never Again or the other Casino Royale that we do not speak of. I've not actually watched those ones, but recently I went through and I watched every single one of the main Eon Bond films. That's probably in the past 7 or 8 months I've been doing that. I just finished Spectre the other day. There is a lot, and I don't know if it was worth it. But I've got a cup of tea, and we're gonna discuss some Bond. So without any further ado, it's hilariously bad. It's edited like a trailer. It looks horrible. There's some terrible CGI. The plot is wacky. The song is horrendous. Madonna's in it. Madonna is in it. It's so bad, but it's kind of my favorite at the same time because it's so funny. It is so funny. It is just kind of one long action sequence with very little plot, and what there is of a plot is the same as every other 70s Bond film. And the soundtrack, man, it is so 80s in the worst possible way. This for me is the only one of Sean Connery's Eon films that I didn't really like. There's weird sped up action sequences, the plot I don't remember, and it's weird. It's a bad film. It's boring. It's honestly it's just so boring. I didn't like the plot. It was boring, it was dumb, there's some really dumb things. It's got the best Bond song, and it's Roger Moore's first Bond film, and he's my least favorite Bond, so I'll leave it at that. Quantum of Solace is so bad. I understand it was being made in the middle of the writer's strike, so the script is terrible, it builds to nothing, it's so anticlimactic, but the pacing, the editing, the cinematography, it's all bad. It's seriously bad. It's really, guys, it's bad. It's kind of just like your standard Bond film. I mean, Pierce Brosnan's kind of good in it, and there's a really long boat chase scene at the start, but it's okay. Christopher Lee is great in it. That's about all I really remember, to be honest. I think I laughed at a few scenes because they were quite bad. That's all I gotta say on that one. What is that? That's my little Octopussy. It's probably one of the most grounded film of Roger Moore's era. It's really not saying much. But it is. I don't know, I think it was just kind of simple compared to the last few. Like, we recently had Moonraker before this one, and I just... yeah, look, there. Sean Connery is way too old here. There's some very goofy action sequences, but it's kind of fun. So this is definitely Bond's response to Star Wars, and for that, it's kind of dumb. And the whole plot's goofy. Jaws is so goofy in this one, but it's kind of funny in the goofy way. The space stuff is like, it's okay, it's dumb, it's really not what Bond is. But the production design was pretty good. Timothy Dalton is a weird change of pace for a Bond here. I'm not sure that at this film he quite has it yet. But there's some alright action in this one. This is the classic, the OG, the original Bond, but it's a very cheap film. It's fun, it's got some great action sequences and some very ambitious sets for the time period. It's also the first time though the score actually stood out to me a bit, and it is extremely racist. Spectre has an extremely muddled final act. There's so much pseudo interference here. You can tell they didn't really know how they end it. I think they just bit off more than they could chew. They threw so much into this film. The Blofeld twist is really unsatisfying. In fact, the best way to describe this film is extremely unsatisfying. There is, however, some cool concepts. I think the whole sort of guerrilla style MI6 is pretty cool, and I kind of wish that they would explore that a bit more. I think it's one of those films that perhaps has some really good ideas, but they're just executed quite poorly. It's the second Bond film, and it's the first big Bond film. It's ambitious, and it's a lot of fun. It's kind of all the best bits of Bond all thrown into one movie. Maybe it's not the best in a lot of places, but it introduces Jaws. And who doesn't love Jaws? Lazenby is really different, and I'm glad he only does one film, because I think that film's really unique for that reason. And the ending is so tragic, but it's so effective. Dalton really gets it here. He really nails this different Bond, almost like a version of Craig before Craig was a thing. He's different, he's, I wouldn't say fun, but he's gritty and he's interesting and exciting in a weird and unpredictable way. There's some great action and fun to be had in this film, and probably the most memorable Bond villain that we'd had in a while. It's so goofy, but it's so 90s in the best way possible. I mean, like early, ambitious kind of CGI where they're not overdoing it. The score is so 90s. A lot of it reminded me of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. This film has a great story, great action, one of the most memorable Bond villains for the time, and I think it's a Bond film that has some of the highest stakes. And considering this film came out in the 60s, it's quite ambitious in that way. It also looks really good for a film of that time. GoldenEye, look, we got a great tone, great villain, amazing set pieces, amazing pacing. I just wish the pen ruined it for me. Skyfall adds just the right amount of Bond backstory to Bond. We don't want too much backstory, but it gives us a nice little taste of it, and that is really used to advance the plot, and I think it's cool. His relationship with M is explored more, and that's awesome, and we know how tragic the end of that is. The villain's cool, it's action-packed, it's beautifully shot, Sam Mendes is great at directing it, and I love the London aesthetic, and that's kind of why I like Sherlock, because it's so beautiful in London, and they make it look all pretty, and they really do that really well in Skyfall. It is a very, very, very pretty film. This to me is the best Bond film. I was hooked from the first scene in black and white. It's awesome. Craig is amazing. It's probably the best performance he's done so far as Bond. It's really well paced, and the character work in this film is really good. The relationship between him and the Bond girl, whose name has jumped away from my mind. I think it begins with a D. Or is it like Vesper! Vesper! Vesper is awesome. Vesper's really cool. The visuals are out of this world amazing. It looks beautiful. The CGI is used sparingly and very well when it is done. It establishes a new tone for this next generation of Bond. A tone that is great and so fitting for the franchise. And it has an amazing score and the best Bond song. It took me a while at first. I wasn't 100% sold on it, but I think it's great. I dig it. Well, that is it. That is every Bond film ranked. I can't believe I did it. You know, disclaimer, I totally forgot the plot of half of Roger, in fact, probably 6 out of, I think, 7 Roger Moore films. So I had to wiki them before shooting this. But that's how I remember them. Some movies are really great, some movies are really bad. That's just Bond. It's such a variety. But I'm really digging the way this new era is going. Whilst they haven't hit the nail on the head with each film, I think the tone is pretty consistent, and I'm really, really looking forward to No Time to Die. Woo! That was a long video. That was a very long video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Go drink some tea. I don't know. It's now a fact, I guess, that I just have way too much time on my hands whilst I'm in isolation. Anyways, if you got any preferences in Bond films, I wouldn't recommend ranking all 25, but if you want to give me like your top 5 in the comments or something, go ahead, I'll give it a gaze, we can have a discuss, see what's good, see if you hate me and disagree with my opinions. But, as always, thank you very, very much for watching this Greenie Productions video, and I will see you in another video very, very soon. I'm gonna go drink my tea and turn the aircon on in this room, because it is boiling. It is boiling.